AI giant Anthropic has said it plans to become a public company in the US. The company behind the popular chatbot Claude said on Monday it had filed confidential paperwork with the US Securities and Exchange Commission in order to make an initial public offering, IPO, this year. 3 new vaccines are being developed to tackle the rare species of Ebola that has already killed nearly 250 people. The International AIDS Vaccine Initiative, IAVI, which is working on one vaccine, said the outbreak was threatening to be the worst ever. Italians have reacted with bemusement to the restoration of a famous bull mosaic in Milan, with some wondering what has happened to the animal's Lucky Charm testicles. Work to repair the small crater formed by tourists grinding their heels on the bull's private parts began last week, and local Milan councillor Marco Granelli said over the weekend that the mosaic had been completely restored. The United States and Iran have both signalled that they would prefer not to go back to the war that has been on hold since the ceasefire was announced on the 8th of April. Neither side has allowed the steady drumbeat of military exchanges between them to end the talks being mediated by Pakistan, Qatar and others.
Artificial intelligence giant Anthropic has confidentially filed for an initial public offering, IPO, in the United States, teeing up what could become a watershed moment for Wall Street's AI frenzy. The move, announced on Monday, sets up a high-stakes test of whether investor appetite for the AI revolution that has reshaped white-collar work around the world can match the sky-high expectations surrounding the booming sector.
SpaceX has added new language to its IPO filing that warns prospective investors about the company's access to a potentially scarce resource. Water, the company, which now includes Elon Musk's AI play, xAI, wrote in an amended version of the filing on Monday that access to water is just as important as SpaceX's ability to secure power processors and critical power processors and other critical resources.
Instagram has resolved a security issue that allowed several users' accounts to get hacked. The attack appeared to rely on tricking Meta's own AI-powered support chatbot into granting access to a victim's account. Over the weekend, several users on Reddit claimed that their Instagram accounts had been compromised, and a number of users on X warned of similar account hijackings. The compromised accounts include the Instagram handle for the Obama-era White House, which appears to have been inactive since 2017, and the account of the U.S. Space Force's Chief Master Sergeant, John Benton-Wegner.
Lahore. Former Prime Minister and PMLN Supremo Nawaz Sharif will visit Gilgit-Baltistan on Tuesday to meet party ticket holders ahead of the June 7 elections. The GB Election Commission had announced that general elections in the region would be held on June 7 after a 4-month delay.
Iran has warned that Israeli attacks against Hezbollah in Lebanon could threaten Tehran's ceasefire with the US, after Israel's Prime Minister ordered strikes on the southern suburbs of Beirut. Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said the agreement with the US was unequivocally a ceasefire on all fronts, including in Lebanon, and that its violation on one front is a violation of the ceasefire on all fronts.
The pro-Palestinian American streamer Hassan Piker and his uncle say Britain's government has barred them from entering the country over their criticism of Israel. Piker, 34, and Turkish-American broadcaster and attorney Cenk Uygur were scheduled to speak this week at the South by Southwest Technology and Business Festival, SXSW, in London and address the Oxford Union, a debating society at the prestigious British University. Previous World Cup appearances, 2 best performance. Groups stage 96, 2022. First appearance, 1986, Mexico. Top goal scorer, Alphonso Davies, 1 player to watch. Alphonso Davies' FIFA World Ranking 30 football participation overtook ice hockey in Canada in the 1990s, but it has taken time to turn passion into national team respectability.
And NVIDIA is set to bring artificial intelligence to laptop and desktop computers with brands like Microsoft and Dell later this year, as the US tech giant broadens its AI presence. The Santa Clara, California-based AI chipmaker unveiled on Monday at its annual NVIDIA GTC event in Taipei new powerful chips that would bring advanced AI functions to laptops and desktop computers. A former Syrian general has pleaded not guilty in an Austrian court to torturing opponents of ousted President Bashar al-Assad. Brigadier General Khalid al-Halabi made his plea as the trial opened on Monday in the Austrian capital, Vienna. Alongside Police Chief Lieutenant Colonel Musab Abu Rukba, al-Halabi faces charges including torture, aggravated coercion bodily harm, and inflicting serious bodily harm. Both face up to 10 years in prison.
Atlas Menu, a cheat service for popular online video game Grand Theft Auto V, has been hacked. According to data breach notification website Have I Been Pwned, the stolen data included users' email addresses, usernames, scrambled passwords, IP addresses, and support tickets. According to Have I Been Pwned, which said almost 64,000 accounts were part of the breach.
The mall is making a comeback as younger people return to American shopping malls in greater numbers. A startup called The Mall is bringing the concept online with an app that lets users create a personalized virtual mall from their favorite brands and track sales in one place.
European Union EU top diplomat Kaja Kallas on Monday said the bloc sought stability in the region, adding that it was in everyone's interest for the ongoing war in the Middle East to end and for the Strait of Hormuz to remain open. Kallas, who serves as Vice President of the European Commission and the EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, is visiting Pakistan at the invitation of Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar to participate in the 8th round of the EU-Pakistan Strategic Dialogue, which was held earlier today. Iranian officials have warned that Israel's escalating attacks on Lebanon and ongoing hostilities in Gaza threaten to derail the ongoing ceasefire negotiations with the United States, which continue to drag on. Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi suggested on Monday that the mounting Israeli invasion of Lebanon and its strikes on the country, alongside the continued US siege of Iranian ports, constitutes a violation of the ceasefire.
Few states are as synonymous with left-wing politics in the United States as California. On Tuesday, the western state is headed to the polls to vote in primary elections ahead of November's midterms. But a quirk in its primary system has made its governor's race vulnerable to a Republican takeover.
Hundreds of young people in the town of Nanyuki in central Kenya have rallied against plans to set up an Ebola quarantine centre for United States citizens exposed to the virus at Laikipia Air Base nearby. The protests on Monday came 2 days after Kenya's High Court suspended the establishment of the facility and a case filed by the Law Society of Patients, pending a case filed by the Law Society of Kenya and a constitutional watchdog. An international court has ruled that the United Kingdom does not need to pay Rwanda more than £100 million, £134 million, in compensation over a scrapped migrant deportation deal. The Hague's Permanent Court of Financial Claims brought by Kigali, which had argued that Britain should honour the terms of the controversial asylum plan, which was cancelled by London in 2024.
Anthropic, the AI lab behind Claude, has filed confidentially for an initial public offering. The company said in a blog post Monday. The company, which is valued at close to $1 trillion, submitted a draft registration statement to the US Securities and Exchange Commission for a proposed initial public offering. Anthropic has yet to list the number of shares or set the price. Anthropic said the proposed initial public offering will depend on market conditions and other factors.
Gigascale, the venture firm led by former Meta CTO Mike Schroepfer, announced on Monday that it had raised a $250 million fund to back founders who are rebuilding the physical economy. The new fund will focus on energy, grid infrastructure, and critical minerals, all through the lens of climate tech. By continuing with the overt climate focus, Gigascale is Babaka climate tech wisdom, which has soured on the climate tech thesis. Islamabad. The Election Commission of Pakistan, ECP, on Monday directed the Ministry of Interior and the Islamabad Chief Commissioner to provide pending documents for the delimitation of the capital's local government within 3 days, warning that a 10-day deadline had already lapsed. The letter, seen by Dawn, was addressed to the Secretary of the Ministry of Interior and the Islamabad Chief Commissioner. Islamabad. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif on Monday assured businessmen and industrialists that measures were being taken to make the forthcoming federal budget conducive to industrial growth and production. The government is expected to approve a consolidated national development program of over $3.5 trillion and a macroeconomic framework, an inflation of 8.5%, an inflation of 8.5% for FY 2026-27.
A new AI weather forecasting tool released today by the startup Windborne Systems offers more frequent and accurate predictions on key variables than the world-leading system developed by European governments, thanks to advancements in how sensor readings are fed into deep learning models. Founded by a group of Stanford students in 2019, Windborne began by building a better weather balloon with the idea of selling weather data. But the arrival of the weather forecasting deep learning models in 2022, the team realized they could capture more value by building their own model as well. SpaceX is warning investors that it may dole out significant equity in future transactions following its upcoming IPO, language that was added amid constant industry gossip that CEO Elon Musk ultimately plans to merge his space and AI company with Tesla. The new language was tucked deep in the risk factors section of SpaceX's first official amendment to its IPO filing, which was made public last month. The company tacked this sentence onto the end of the first paragraph of a risk about how mergers and acquisitions may go sideways.
Huawei has launched the Nova 16 Pro smartphone with a high-end camera setup, a large battery and fast wired charging. The Huawei Nova 16 Pro features a 6.84-inch OLED display with 1.07 billion colors and P3 wide color gamut support. The screen offers FHD plus resolution and uses a 1 Hz to 120 Hz LTPO adaptive refresh rate for smoother visuals. Gilgit. 7 people went missing after a tourist jeep on its way to Fairy Meadows in the Diama district of Gilgit-Baltistan fell into a ravine and was swept away in Tatu Nulla on Monday. According to the spokesperson for the GB police, the accident occurred at around 3 p.m. on Tatu Raikot Road.
Hungarian Prime Minister Peter Magyar said on Monday his government would launch legal proceedings to dismiss President Tamás Sulyok, an appointee of the previous nationalist administration, if he sticks by his refusal to resign. Magyar's centre-right Tisza party ousted Prime Minister Viktor Orban in an April election and pledged to remove several figures appointed by Orban to key public positions over the past 16 years, including the largely ceremonial head of state.
Cairo, Egypt. On a weekday afternoon in early May, Mohammed Adel boarded the monorail at Mushir Tantawi station and watched Cairo's cityscape scroll by. The 48-year-old sales manager had boarded a train on the Egyptian capital's latest public transport transit line, Cairo's East Nile monorail, to test it. He was satisfied with the overall experience of his brief journey.